The question you are asking yourself is, should you buy the 1More EVO? The answer quite literally is this video. I'm going to be telling you about the 1More EVO. We're going to talk about the sound, we're going to talk about the features, and we're going to talk about some quirks that you absolutely must know about. And then we're going to analyze the value proposition for the $170 they're asking for it. So let's get started. From a design perspective, the 1More EVO is gorgeous. There's rose gold accents everywhere, on the earbuds, on the case, and oddly a red accent on the USB slot at the back. But it's all made almost completely of metal, very reminiscent of the AKG N400 and very well built. Inside, of course, you've got the earphones themselves nestled in the case with some rather strong magnets that, combined with the shape of the earphones, make them kind of difficult to take out of the case. You do get used to that though. Once you do, you realize that the earbuds themselves, they're a little bit on the larger side, and as such, in the ear, I would expect them to be a difficult fit. But they're not. They've done a few clever things with the weight distribution, and the result is, at least for my ears, this thing is not only comfortable, it fits really snug, and it does not come out no matter what I'm doing. So for me, the fit is good, although smaller ears might be a little bit of a problem. Also, if you're running, they do stick out a little bit, so there'll be a little bit of wind noise. More on that in a bit. Now, 1More does include the 1More music app, which you can download off any Play Store, and there's two things you have to know about this. Number one is you must absolutely do the firmware update as and when it's available, because before you do it, the 1More EVO looks, sounds, feels like a work in progress and not a finished product. Once you do that firmware update, it not only unlocks a couple of features, it also just makes it work like it should. I do have to mention that my particular unit has some massive channel imbalances once in a while. Put them back in the case, repair them after about half an hour, and they seem to go away and not come back for a few days at least. It's happened twice in my testing. Online, on Reddit, on any of the forums, I don't see anybody else complaining, so maybe it's just my unit, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Nonetheless, the app is nice and clean. It works relatively well. Pairing works immediately. The moment you open the case, it starts pairing. It's connected within a second. It's really seamless. The app connects just as fast and gives you a bunch of options. The first one being the ability to toggle between noise cancelling, ambient sound mode, and just having it off. Now, it does work on touch controls, right? But you only have 2 taps and 3 taps. The single tap is a tap and hold feature that will toggle between ANC, ambient mode, and off. That last bit is important because it lets you know that it's changing with a chime. Touch and hold for 1.5 seconds, it gives you a chime, and it goes over to something that sounds quieter than ambient sound, but is actually not noise cancelling. It's just turned everything off. So you need to do that 2 times to cycle back to noise cancelling. So in case you already have the 1More EVO, you might have been listening to it with the ANC off all the time. It's still quieter than ambient sound mode because ambient sound amplifies everything, but you're still not using the ANC. Now, if you wanted some amount of customizability in the app, there is strong and mild ANC. Also, there's wind noise reduction and adaptive mode. We'll talk about that in just a minute in the sound quality section. As far as customizability of touch control goes, there's almost none. 2 taps, 3 taps can be customizable, but if 2 taps on the left is play and pause, 2 taps on the right is also play and pause. There's no customizability beyond that. You can choose one set for one gesture. That's it. Now, it does have a couple of things that 1More includes with all of its buds. Number one is the ability to burn in, if you believe in that sort of thing. Basically, it plays a bunch of static through that for as many hours as you want, and supposedly this helps the sound signature, but more importantly is the soothing sounds option. So if you decide to go to sleep with these, then you can play soothing sounds right from the app, and they work pretty nicely, but they're a bit large. You can sleep on your back, but you can't really sleep on your side. It'll get uncomfortable for sure. Now, it does give you a few EQ options, and again, we can talk about that in the sound quality section. Before that, a little hidden feature is that in the app, the top right has a 1More symbol. Tap that symbol and it's actually a menu. In that menu, there is an experimental features option, and over here is where you activate Multipoint. Multipoint does not come activated out of the box. This is how you do it. When you do, it works pretty seamlessly. I connected it to my Google Pixel 6 and my computer, and the way you switch is you pause your media on one device, you start your media on the other device, and it just automatically happens. It happened every time for me. I have no real issues with that whatsoever, and it works similarly with phone calls. So Multipoint does work pretty well and will be one of the key value propositions of the 1More EVO in the analysis section of this video. But before that, we should probably talk about the sound. First of all, active noise cancellation goes up to 40 decibels of ANC according to their claim, and in my experience, it works pretty darn well. It's very similar to the ANC I found in the 1More Comfort Buds Mini, an excellent device. You can check that review out in this channel. Also subscribe while you're at it. But it only works on bass frequencies. Mids, upper mids, highs, they're all left untouched. So you can hear anyone talking to you, no problems. There's no muffling, there's no noise cancelling going on there. You just won't hear the hum and buzz of air conditioning, the sound of an engine on a bus or a car, that sort of thing. You'll still hear the parts of those sounds that are in the upper registers though. So the ANC is not class leading. It's kind of middle of the road at this point because there are options in the market, but it's still better than a lot of other options, and it still does a very good job where it does work. Now you can choose between strong and mild ANC. In my opinion, just use strong all the time. It works pretty well. But if you want a certain amount of ambient noise coming in, then mild ANC is the way to go because there's no slider for the ambient noise. If you select ambient noise, it just does a one-size-fits-all environmental amplification. It does sound a bit metallic, a bit digitized, not natural, but you do hear the outside world with amplification. Mild ANC is kind of a more natural ambient sound mode, sort of, but that's the most amount of customizability they've given you. Wind noise reduction basically allows in a certain amount of higher frequencies that basically coincide with wind noise, and yeah, it does a pretty decent job in my opinion. Not perfect, but better than not having anything. Adaptive ANC technically is supposed to change the level of ANC based on the level of noise around you. In my opinion, just the strongest ANC just works all the time, and because it's not class leading and it doesn't just work across all the frequencies, I just use strong ANC all the time and it works pretty well. Now in terms of sound quality, it's got dual drivers, it's got LDAC support, so it should sound amazing, but it doesn't, and a lot of people are not going to like this, but in my opinion this is very middle of the road sound. It's not bad, it's certainly inoffensive, it has a bit of punch in the mid bass, you're gonna really enjoy those drum beats. The mid range is not bad, lower mid range, deeper male vocals actually sound quite nice, but the upper mid range lacks a bit of presence, which means female vocals and higher register male vocals will sound a little more distant, a little more subdued in the mix, you know. That's not a bad thing, it's just a choice of flavor if you ask me. And as for the highs, well, they can get a little sharp at times, no doubt about it, but not as sharp as some of the other competitors and relatively kind of inoffensive. Plus, they give you EQ options. If you don't like any of this, there is a custom EQ option along with Sound ID and preset EQs, and all of them make quite a difference. The preset EQ, the studio option, does seem a little more neutral, and the classical option does seem to boost the very low and very high frequencies a bit. So it does things as advertised, and you might want to play around with that because they do make a genuine difference. Custom EQ is a great thing to have, so I'm glad they have it, but Sound ID is something that I think not everyone will know how to use properly. If you want to know more about Sound ID, you can check out my 1More Comfort Buds Mini review, but overall, you should be good with either playing around with the custom EQ or choosing one of the preset EQs. To 1More's credit though, they have managed to find a sound that is inoffensive but still pretty good, a step above from a lot of the competitors. But the reason I find it mediocre is because the competition has come along, and we'll talk about that in the analysis section in just 1 second, because sound quality is also about microphone quality. So this is what the 1More Buds EVO sounds like into the Pixel 6 in a relatively quiet environment. There is some AC noise going on in the background, and that's about it. Now in my experience, it does pick up some of the reverberations in the room and whatnot, but by and large it seems to handle the voice pretty well even in loud situations. And this is what it sounds like with some loud cafe sounds in the background. I'm going to move my head around so that the sounds hit the earphones in every single way. I'm speaking a little bit loud. This would be more normal volume, and this would be a loud volume. And I'm just going to turn my head around once again. What does it sound like? Is it managing to cancel out the noise or not? You tell me. Oh, and before I forget, for sound quality in the app, there's an option to change from stable connection to priority to sound quality, and you should do that. It'll reset the buds for a second before it actually switches, but this is something you should absolutely do because it does default to stable connection. I have had no connection issues with middle of the road LDAC at 600 kbps. 900 kbps did give me some skipping issues here and there, but is mostly also okay, at least in my experience, so you should be able to take advantage of that. In terms of battery life, 1More promises 8 hours with ANC on, with AAC codec running, which means for those of you guys on the Apple iPhones, that's what you're expected to get, maybe just a little bit less at higher volumes of listening, which is likely what you'll use. Although the 1More EVO does get quite loud, so I think you'll probably be okay with about 70% volume, 75 at the most. If you're using an Android phone and if you're using LDAC, which you should be, then you can expect between 5 hours 20, 5 hours and 40 minutes. Pretty much par for the course. There's nothing to write home about here. It does what a lot of devices with similar specs do. So we move on to the actual value analysis. Is the 1More EVO worth the $170 they ask of you? Well, there's two ways to look at it. Number one, $30 more will get you into the $190 to $210 price bracket, right? That will give you the Apple AirPods Pro, which if you're in the Apple ecosystem completely will give you better active noise cancelling, better tonal balance, and will give you multipoint as well, provided you're in the Apple ecosystem. If you're not, the Sony LinkBuds S is a fantastic option. Better resolution in the sound, better active noise cancellation, no multipoint, but also better comfort regardless of your size of ear. So there is definitely value to be had for just $30 more. If you flip the coin, on the other hand, there is the Soundcore Liberty 3 Pro, which is an unfair comparison. It is 1 year old and it is now available frequently at some pretty impressive discounts. At those discounts, there's really no arguing here. The Soundcore Liberty 3 Pro has a multi-point. It has better resolution in the sound across the range, better imaging, better bass fidelity, although the highs do get very sharp on that one. So that, it depends on what you want. It can be fantastic value at a good discount, and it makes the 1More EVO a little bit less of a value proposition. But if you get this for under $150, it's really hard to argue. You save $50 from that Sony LinkBuds S tier, but you still get Bluetooth multipoint, which works really well. You still get ANC, which is meaningful. It does make a difference, and you still get sound quality that is, I would say, still a notch above most of the other devices in the Bluetooth earbud range of $150. And with EQ, can be made to shine even more. Add to that a decent level of comfort and some nice looks and good finishing, and I think you've got a pretty good product as long as you find it under $150. That doesn't mean it's not worth $170. There's just other things to consider, inching close to that $200 price point. There you have it, folks, the 1More EVO. Is it right for you? Is there something else that I've missed out that really sells these for you? Comment down below and tell me so I can learn from you guys. And if you want to know anything about any of the other earbuds I mentioned, I have reviews on all of them on this channel. So go subscribe, go check out the content, and I will see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.